Highway 61, also known as the Blues Trail, cuts north through the Mississippi Delta, the birthplace of the blues, and leads to Memphis, the breeding ground of some of America's greatest musical gifts to the world. Sitting right on the Mississippi River, in its early days, Memphis was a busy port city and a center for the southern slave trade. The soil and climate of much of West Tennessee were perfect for growing cotton, and as a result, much of the land here was dominated by large plantations. Cotton was king. But having so much cotton was only good if it could be sold. In 1873, the Memphis Cotton Exchange was created. Cotton farmers would come to this building downtown and sell their harvest to traders, who would then sell it to textile manufacturers. The cotton was shipped out of Memphis on steamboats, and in later years, on trains. The cotton fields were worked by slaves. During their arduous days in the field, they would sing and clap, do field hollers and work songs. Their methods for creating music would have a lasting impact on every form of American music, beginning with the blues. African-American musician and band leader W.C. Handy began to experiment with the unusual rhythms and cadence of the former slaves' music. At his headquarters on Beale Street, Handy wrote a wildly popular song called The Memphis Blues. Handy brought the music to a much wider audience, and today is known as the father of the blues. And here on Beale Street, it was Blues Central. By the 1920s, the sounds of the blues rang out on the streets of Memphis, especially here on Beale Street. In these clubs and restaurants was played some of the hottest music in the country. Over the next 20 years, Louis Armstrong, Muddy Waters, and many other blues legends performed on Beale Street. In the 70s, Beale Street was officially declared the home of the blues by an act of the United States Congress. It's one of the most storied addresses in popular music. And not too far away, there's another one. On July 5th in 1954, Sam Phillips was sitting in his office here at Sun Records when a 19-year-old walked in the door and sang, "That's All Right." That young man was Elvis Presley, and the song became an overnight sensation. During the hourly tours given here, visitors can touch the microphone and stand on the exact spot where Elvis stood to record his first song. For those who need a bigger fix of Elvis, there's plenty to be seen just a short way south on old U.S. Highway 51. When he was just 22 years old, Elvis bought Graceland, a 14-acre estate. He died here 20 years later. In 1982, Graceland opened to the public as a museum. Tourists can even visit one of his private jets. Nearly 650,000 visitors make the pilgrimage to Graceland each year. Elvis's name is synonymous with Memphis, and the city often gets credited as the home of the blues and the place where rock and roll was born. But its contributions to soul music are often overlooked. Memphis Soul got some attention in 2000 when the Smithsonian Institution opened its 8,000 square foot Memphis Rock and Soul Museum just off Beale Street. The Smithsonian's first permanent exhibition outside of Washington, D.C. and New York. Memphis Soul was further honored in 2003 when the Stax Museum of American Soul was opened here. In the 1960s, Stax Records was the second best soul record label in the country after Motown. Memphis Soul was grittier and born out of the blues. Al Green, Isaac Hayes, and Otis Redding are only a few of the artists who recorded at Stax. Black and white musicians worked alongside each other at Stax, a rarity in a largely segregated city. But that racial harmony came to an end in 1968, largely because of an event that took place not too far from Stax recording studios. This building is part of the National Civil Rights Museum, founded to commemorate the events of the 4th of April, 1968. On that date, at 6:01 p.m., Martin Luther King Jr. was shot and killed here in Memphis at the nearby Lorraine Motel. This building was originally the rooming house across from the motel where James Earl Ray allegedly fired the fatal shot. The museum chronicles the struggle for racial equality from the days of slavery up through Dr. King's death. Today, Memphis is still known and visited for the musical revolutions that began here. It's also a 5-time winner of the nation's Cleanest City Award. In 1991, planners wanted to create a visual landmark here. They decided to build the Great American Pyramid. At 321 feet tall, it's the 6th largest pyramid in the world. Once used as a sports arena and concert venue, today it stands empty. The nearby FedEx Forum took over as the main venue in town. FedEx Forum is only one small part of the Federal Express presence here in Memphis. The company's headquarters are here too. FedEx is the largest employer in Memphis, with more than 30,000 employees and a super hub at the airport. Sometimes even vintage World War II planes, like this Hawker Sea Fury, fly over Memphis, a city that will always be known for the rich musical traditions born here.